Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Hello, hello, hello. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt completely lost? You know, seeking purposeful direction that could and should propel your mission within your divine journey to that next level, but still it hasn't happened. Well, my name is Lauren Michaels Harris, and I'm the founder of P3, the Journey Series. People come to me because they're wounded. Many are scared, and even there are those who are bruised simply because they feel that they are increasingly, for whatever reason, losing their ability to dream. Now, this P3 program is not for a person who's just looking to start a business, no, but rather for those of you out there who have been on your journey and you've been navigating within your divine purpose, but you still desire to elevate to that level that you have not reached yet. If this is appealing, if this describes you, then I want to have a chat with you. I want to hear your story. So use the link below to get registered for your free seat at P3, the Journey Series. And let's get started. One story at a time. I'll see you inside. Click the link.
Before you get it, baby, show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Boy, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind. You walk right past me, pretending like you don't see what's yours for the taking tonight.
I'm hitting that bell today. Well, actually, I do it every day. Here it comes. Wake that ass up. Wake it up. It's Thursday. It's Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. And then we can do whatever we want on the weekend. I'm working. What about you? Anyway, good morning. Good morning. Happy Thursday to you. Welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris. It is snowing again in the Windy City, Chicago. I didn't have to shovel, so it's not that bad, but it's icy snow. It's totally different
than yesterday when it was all fluffy and beautiful and people were going, ah. Today they're going, ah, right, because you got to scrape and all that. But hey, we've been lucky so far. It hasn't been too bad so far in Chicago. How are things shaping up in your neck of the woods? What's going on? Welcome to the show, my sidekick, Miss Lucy McGillicuddy Ricardo. Been here a long time with me, 6 years. So, real quick, before I get our guest in here, you see the thing up in the corner? That is a flow code. And here it is, again, up big. So you can get your camera, your handheld device, and simply, you know what to do. Just hold it up in your photos, and you will be directed or redirected, as the case may be, to Karma Chords. They are our spotlight sponsor of the week. So I didn't put the robe on yet because I wanted to not have my new pendant covered at all. So there it is. I'm so excited. Thank you, Sanjay. He brought that over the weekend. That's what it looks like up close. It is the Cross Heart Trinity. It's a stainless steel aromatherapy necklace, which means those little pads inside the green when you see this comes with a variety. I think I got 6 different colors, and you can change it to fit your mood or your outfit. And there they are there. Really nice, and it's a beautiful piece. Here's something else they have that's brand new. Brian has this one, and he loves it. It's reversible, and that is the lotus flower. Unique color pattern on each piece, so no two are the same. And if you're not feeling one side, flip it over. Flip it over. There it is. So when you use the flow code, and I know you will, don't forget to type in TTVDISC, stands for, you guessed it, Trajectory TV discount. At checkout, you'll receive an additional 15% off your order. So that is our spotlight sponsor. There's the flow code. Go ahead and snap that and get over and check them out. These bracelets, I've been wearing them for 4 years. Yeah, I just love Karma Chords, and I love Sanjay. Thank you so much. So who do we have today? It's a birthday party. It's a birthday party. It's a 21st birthday party. Okay, well, you know how we are anyway, I love being 60. I don't know how old Dr. Stephanie Olson is, and I'm not going to ask her. I learned that lesson once, and the side of my face that got slapped is still stinging. Boy, it was my Aunt Minnie. You don't as a woman, her age, right. All right, I was like 3, right? I was like, okay, so I don't do that anymore. So I'm going to get Dr. Stephanie in here. It's her birthday, so I'm going to let her talk about whatever she wants to. But you know me and my clips. I have one pulled up because I want to talk about some work that she does in the world. And with us headed to Romania, I wanted to dive a little deeper into the sex trafficking issue. We hear about it a lot, but I have a couple questions because Dr. Stephanie is also the founder and CEO of the Set Me Free Project. And she's been here before talking about that, but I'm just going to get her in here. You guys put some hearts on the screen, won't you? It's our way of blessing our guests as they come in to pour into us. It's a virtual round of applause, if you will. So do it now. Put some hearts on the screen as we welcome to the stage Dr. Stephanie Olson, the birthday girl. Happy birthday. Happy. I hope they take her to some restaurant tonight and make the people come out and do that. Don't you hate that?
It's my birthday. It's my birthday. Yeah. Hey,
Yes.
I don't mind telling
birthday.
you, I'm 54.
You
today.
are?
Yeah.
You're the same age as my Brian.
Is that right? Is that right?
Yes.
Well, that's a cool age then. Tell him that.
How do you feel about it?
You know what? If you would have asked me that question a year ago, I would have told you it's devastating. It was horrible. But I've really learned to embrace my age because I ain't changing it, right? I'm not going backwards.
Right.
And my dad always said it beats the alternative. So
that's what my mom would say.
Yes.
That's exactly what Lucille would say. Well, the only other choice.
That's right. So I'm embracing it.
So let me ask you, back at the beginning, before you were married, before you had your family,
Mhm.
um, did you ever think about what you'd be doing at this age? Or did it just seem like so far, 1,000 years away?
Yeah, so not really at this age. I don't think I thought about that. I thought about what I would do when I was older, which in my mind at that point was like what, 25, right?
Yeah.
My grandma, I remember my grandma. I lived with my grandma when I was young, up until the age of 6, and I remember her turning 50 and thinking, "Oh my gosh, that's so old." But yeah, your perspective changes a lot because don't you feel like you're still, I mean, like 30? I mean, it's not,
The
it
same
hasn't
you.
changed.
I
Yeah.
do feel that on the
Yeah.
inside. And I'm grateful that
Yeah.
that doesn't age.
Yes.
That
Yes.
part. I don't even know what to call it. I
Yeah.
guess I'd call it my inner spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does the way I think and talk to myself
Right.
and all of that. And my
I th-
perspective, it's changed, but it still has some of that original me.
yeah, it matures, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of a weird feeling. But it is, I'm grateful. And I always say I'll always be younger than my husband and my brother-in-law. So
Here we go. I'm sorry, I'm eating wheat
you
chex.
eat away.
Eat wheat chex. Yeah. Because yesterday I was chained down here practically. I
Mm.
had my breakfast here on the show, and then I had a bowl of olives, black
Oh,
olives.
okay.
That's all I had
Not a
for
fan. Not a fan of those, but
I know that's all I had, and a half of an avocado.
that's not
Yeah,
enough to eat.
I know it, and I can't do that. That's not good. So I had to force myself.
Well, I ate enough for you.
Yesterday,
I was traveling yesterday and I was driving and I just, oh my gosh, I just ate crap the whole way home. So
oh,
there you go.
I can
Now
be
I
sick
feel,
sometimes.
yeah, that's not good to do when you're 54.
No, tell my love handles that for real. I'm not kidding you. I wanted to ask you. Well, first of all, are you doing anything special for your birthday? Or do they usually surprise you?
So my husband's taking me out to breakfast today, and then he's leaving town. Lame. And my kid,
Breakfast.
yeah,
It
exactly.
has
And then
nothing to do with your birthday.
my kids are taking me out to dinner tonight. So,
And
and then
you
I'm working.
tell us about your family. You got some pretty special kids.
I have a fabulous family. Family. Words are hard. I really do.
Welcome to 54.
So much goes. So much goes.
Later today, you can start craving bingo and green jello.
Okay, it'll be red jello and I don't know, maybe canasta. I don't know. What is
They
canasta?
don't
I've
serve
never
they don't serve red jello in the nursing home.
Oh, why? Because of it might look, yeah.
It's
Well,
always green.
I don't know. Probably because of the whole blood thing, maybe.
Hey, do you ever talk to your kids about make sure you don't put me in a home?
Well, not so many in those words, but we always let them know that you need to earn enough money in life to take care of us in your home, in
Right.
your home, right?
Right. Not in the garage that you converted.
Yeah, and we always look to the kid who, like, because my oldest daughter is a dancer. She's a professional dancer, lives in New York, probably won't be able to take care of us with that.
Right. She still has a Tony in her future.
Maybe. And then my middle daughter is going to pre-law. So there's a possibility. And then my son, he will, I don't know what he's going to do, but he'll be successful. So I think we're okay. Yeah, we probably won't. And I think we're nice to them. So at least I don't know about my husband, but I won't end up in a nursing home.
I know that's right. I'm hitting up the neighbor kids already.
Yeah.
Most parents are really overrated. It's your neighbor that you should really be thinking about.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have children, so we talk about this a lot.
Right.
But speaking of children and just people in general,
Yeah.
you heard me mention, tell people I'm gonna dip out, and I want you to tell people we know you speak and you consult, but start us off today a little bit about the Set Me Free project, which
Okay.
I just recently found out used to be known as the Set Me Free Ministry.
Yeah, it's sort of. I'll tell you
Oh,
about
is
that.
that
Yeah.
true?
It's
Yeah.
not true technically, but that's where the idea it was. I'll share that story a little bit.
Now, there's something you don't usually see going together: ministries, and it's not true.
I don't know.
Did we learn nothing from Jim and Tammy Faye Baker?
Sometimes we might.
I'm kidding. So I want to give you an opportunity to really speak, though, to the work you do and let everybody know what that is. And I'll pop back in and we'll get started. I have a little, me and my clips, I have a little clip that I want to show to kind of set the tone for today's conversation. So all you, take it away.
Okay. Well, it was Set Me Free Ministries. It's a completely different organization, but it was born because I had struggled in my life. I'm a survivor of sexual and domestic violence. I'm a survivor of addiction. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I really started that organization because I was so sick and tired of it was faith-based organization. I was tired of the church face, like going into church and, hey, everything's great. Life is great. And there was no place to go and be honest with people and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. And so I wanted to create a safe place for women to just be honest and be able to share their struggles. And so I was speaking, we were putting on events and traveling, and it was fabulous. And then one day, one of my co-founder of the Set Me Free project actually said, hey, let's help sex trafficked victims. That was a quote, not knowing any idea of what that meant. And that's how the Set Me Free project was born. And we created an entirely new organization. It was not faith-based, to go into the schools and things like that. And so, yeah, it was a journey.
I find that so interesting, Stephanie, Dr. Stephanie, because, I've worked with a lot of nonprofits over the years in just a variety of different ways. But I don't think until you, unless I just didn't know it, had met someone who most people, like if they have a nonprofit that, serves cancer survivors or whatever, that's because they have survived cancer.
Right.
And so you and your partner, the co-founder, I don't believe either of you was sex trafficked, but you have chosen to put all of your energies for change behind bringing awareness. So tell us, what is it you guys actually do? A lot of movements for sex trafficking, but I've never, come up against a nonprofit. So what is it you guys do, and who do you help? How do you do it?
Yeah, so we are solely focused on prevention education, because when we started, we were really just going to, I don't know what we were going to do. We were like, what are we going to do with this area? And when we started to look around, we realized a lot of people were doing things on the recovery side of sex trafficking. So they were in that recovery or rescue piece of survivors, and they were in the restoration piece of survivors. And that is great and extremely important. But I had also worked with youth in the area of, I would go into the schools and talk about healthy relationships to middle and high schoolers. And I realized, wait a minute, the targets of trafficking are our kids. Why is no one talking to them? And why is no one talking to their parents, and no one's talking to the people that work with youth? And so that's really how we started. I had been speaking, I had been writing. And so it was just a real natural progression, certainly divine. But yeah, that's how it came about.
So here comes a good one. How differently do you look at the sex traffic situation now as opposed to when you began actually, flying the flag of the Set Me Free project? It just seems like the kind of thing where every time you think you've seen it all, here comes something else. Talk about that. How and is it changing? Is it getting better?
Well, it's changing, that's for sure. When we started, I really had that view of sex trafficking, just like so many other people of the movie Taken, that you're kidnapped and you're shipped overseas, and that's what exactly. And you see those images, like that's the image you see. And so when I started in this work, I thought that's what it was. When I started to study it, I realized, whoa, it does not look like that at all, especially domestically. And it's really about relationship building. And it has changed over the years since we've started, because one of the number one places traffickers lure the individuals they traffic is social media. And as social media grows and as social media becomes the prevalent thing in our communication, definitely trafficking has been elevated, for lack of a better word, to work more successfully because it's so much easier to do. So it's changed a lot.
It has. Here's what I want to know. Why do you feel it is that predators who mess with kids, who, traumatize kids sexually, emotionally, physically, on and on, they get they have to register and this and that and the other, but people who have been, convicted of sex trafficking and do their time and get out, how come they don't have to register? How come we don't get warned about them living down the street?
It's a really great question. It's very skewed. It is very skewed. And I think that we are starting to see some movement in the legal process with prosecuting and mostly of traffickers, not as much with buyers. But we are the customer. Yep.
I don't know why they get such a nice everyday term.
Slap, right. Slap on the wrist.
Customer.
And it's really, it's starting to get better, but just when we started our work, and this is the case in some states, depending on the state you live, somebody would get arrested and the person who was truly criminalized was the individual who was being trafficked. And so a lot of states have decriminalized that and made it so that the victim isn't convicted as the perpetrator.
Right.
But there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
So I'm sure there are a lot of misconceptions.
Huge.
From the perspective of the general society.
Yeah.
What would you say is one of the most common myths?
I would say the number one myth is that it is about kidnapping and transporting somewhere. That's probably the biggest myth. And, the white van driving by and, oh my gosh, and that's being perpetuated across social media all the time. Like whatever you do, don't park next to a white van. If you see a zip tie on your car, you're going to get trafficked, all of that kind of stuff. And what traffickers are doing is not kidnapping, it's relationship building. Because if I can gain your trust, if I can get you to love me and connect with me, and it's a grooming process, you are not going to leave. It takes longer. But if I kidnap you and I, throw you in my white van, which is really a black Honda, and I drug you, that is not going to be effective for me because you're going to be afraid. You're not going to want to be there. But if I build a relationship with you, then you think you've chosen that.
There's so many questions. For instance, I always think about when they bust trafficking ring, you never see, or I have it, I look for it. Literally, I'm scanning whatever it is I'm reading or listening to. They're not charged under the RICO Act in a lot of cases. Like, even those big ones that we hear, those prominent ones in the news, and the guy who killed himself in jail and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman's in, I think she's going through it right now, the
Yeah.
accomplice or whatever. And why isn't it like organized crime? Because, and even that customer part, I remember I heard that in a clubhouse room one night,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, how do they get to be called the customer? And we were always taught the customer's always right. Why
Yeah.
aren't they given some slimy name so that it makes it hard for them to hide in plain sight?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
We call them buyers.
buyers.
Mhm.
That too.
And I think that so sometimes you will see traffickers convicted on a completely different charge because they want to get them off the street. And I know that law enforcement's hands are tied to some extent because you do have to see the exchange
Mm,
made, right? You have to see, you have to prove trafficking is happening through force, fraud, or coercion. And that is hard to prove. With adults, that's what you have to prove. But I think that sometimes, to be totally honest with you, it's a very new thing. It's not a new thing, but it's new in the laws. Like, I
right.
cannot tell you how many law enforcement officers still don't recognize what trafficking is. This is prostitution, and they're choosing this, and this is,
Right.
and so there's still a lot of education that needs to happen from top down.
Wow. And it's such a big piece to bite. I don't want to take the
Yeah.
whole hour on that, but I do have one other question though. True or false? Because I really don't know. When we hear sex trafficking, I automatically think of the child, because
Mhm.
it's not just girls, it's boys as well,
Right.
as being at least the age of puberty. But
Mhm.
I've heard that is not necessarily the case all the time. What's the youngest you've ever heard of a child being taken for
An
trafficking?
infant. I
What?
mean, it
A baby?
a baby, an infant. I mean, it's an evil, twisted industry, and from infants to senior citizens, sex trafficking is happening,
Senior
and
citizens?
it's horrifying. Yeah, yeah. It's anybody who's vulnerable, and vulnerability can mean a lot of different things. But there was a nursing home busted because one of the I can't remember which state it was, like one of the M states, but there was a nursing home busted because one of the residents was selling the other residents to the staff. So, I mean, it's all ages, it's money, but the youngest I've seen is an infant, which is
Okay, so you have
mind
the
blowing.
person. What is the person called that finds the victim? And then
So, like somebody who recovers them.
no, the person that says
Oh, recruiter, the
so.
recruiter.
So the recruiter. So you know how the person who buys, you think, oh, they're messed up in the head, and
Yeah.
they're just, it's just in them, and they say they can't be fixed and
Yeah.
all these different
Yeah.
things. But what is that? Have they given it a name for the person who is the recruiter? Because how do they justify that? How does a
That they
person?
are considered a trafficker. The recruiters are traffickers. So there's different levels of trafficking is kind of like a corporation, like anything else. And so there's people from the CEO to the mailroom, and a recruiter is somebody who, and a lot of times recruiters were victimized earlier, but a recruiter is somebody who does the luring, somebody who goes out. That could be that one person. Sometimes it's just one person doing it, sometimes it's a network, but they are considered traffickers.
Any idea how the two pieces, the customer and the recruiter, how do they find each other?
It's like drugs. That's a great question, actually. But I would say the same thing about drugs. When you go, if you're doing drugs, you always know where to go to get the drugs, and it's very similar. It's a dark, small world. And so there are places online, There are places, that you just know you can ask the questions, and it's insidious. But that's a great question. But it's very similar to the drug world, that that people who are doing drugs know where to go to get it.
And in most cases, because I've interviewed some trafficked victims
Mm-hmm.
when I was in Salt Lake City, Jason Cisneros and his team had a march,
Mm-hmm.
for trafficking. It was oof, I haven't been the same since. And the Slave Free Project. And the girls that I interviewed they came to my hotel room after the march for the interviews. There's like 40 people in there. There was like an audience watching the interviews.
Yeah.
And when the girls told me, oh, because I'm talking about the van and this, and they were like, oh no, we were trafficked actually from this very 5-star hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what? You mean I could be walking up and down the hall in the elevator and not even know it? Why do you think it is so many of us do not know what it looks like when it's actually happening? Because
Yeah.
you expect that van to pull up, throw
That's
somebody
right.
in.
I always say if we're looking for the wrong thing, we'll miss what's actually happening. And so we have this mindset that TV gives us, or that the movies give us.
Mhm.
And so we expect an individual who's being trafficked to be, chained to a bed and drugged, and it's all and it's just it just doesn't look like that. I always tell the story. There was a young girl in our community. She was in high school. She was going to school every day, getting straight A's. And she would go home, do her homework. She would go to her afternoon job at Dairy Queen, and she was being sold or pimped out by her quote unquote boyfriend every night, living at home. And so it just doesn't, we wouldn't think, oh, the girl in class sitting next to me is being sold. But
Right.
that's what it can look like.
Because they're not all missing.
They're
you said,
not.
living at
They're
home,
not.
going to
Yes.
church, all these things. I'll never forget. When was it? It was in the 80s.
I wasn't born in the 80s, so I don't know what you're talking about. I was just kidding.
She told us her age. Right. It's called denial. So
Yeah. Right.
no, but I lived in this apartment complex after I separated from the Air Force, and I'll never forget. Tammy was her name, and she worked as a dental hygienist, right? And she lived right next door to my apartment. These little condo things, and all singles, and tennis courts, and all this stuff. It even had a tennis pro there, and she would come over, and I'd go over there back and forth. And at the time, I had a girlfriend. Yes, y'all. She lived with me, and
I need to hear that story sometime.
oh yeah, came this close to getting married. I really did.
Wow.
And yeah, we're still good friends today. Yeah. But I would be over there, and the phone would ring, and then another phone would ring. One time, 2 phones rang differently, and I was like, and she picked up the first one, and a machine got the other one. The one in the kitchen, she picked up, and she was like, she's not available right now. She was talking in code. So wow. I said, Tammy, I said, you know what? If I didn't know better, I would think, who's ringing the doorbell this early in the morning?
Yeah.
Doorbell, right. I said, if I didn't know better, I'd think you were a prostitute or something. The way that sounded. Just kidding. Went back home. The next day she came over, she sat Lori and I down.
Wow.
And she went, listen, you said something yesterday, and I just have to address it because I don't want it to slip out, like at the pool or joking with me or anything. She goes, but actually, I am. I am what? She goes, well, it's not really prostitution, she said, but there are 5 girls. We all work for the same dentist, and he hires us out to other clients that come to the office.
Yep.
And some of them did their thing right in the dental office.
Yep.
And I had never heard of trafficking back then. I just thought, oh, he's a pimp. But
Yeah.
that was really trafficking.
And he's a dent, that is, yes, that is trafficking.
He was
And
prominent
that's
in the community.
something that's, it's amazing how many people are complicit. There was we used to talk about a doctor in Iowa who would traffic in and out of his practice, and he would buy individuals with prescriptions, and I mean, just craziness going on.
So what I'd like to do, let's take a look at the clip. And then after we hear the clip, let's turn the corner. And I'd like to hear, and I'm sure you guys out there would too, how the conversation goes when you're in front of the kids. And what do they tell you? How do they respond to the warnings and things that you give? Are they surprised, or do they know about it? That and more. Let's take a look at this clip real quick. Because this is a person. It was interesting. Even when I was looking for this clip, I had to scroll for a long time. I used to go by how recent and how many, views it has, right? Or who's behind it as far as promoting it. But this one, it took me a long time to find an actual story from a person.
Right.
They all kind of had the same, but take a look and tell me what you feel about this.
Oh, this is Rebecca Bender.
You know her?
Yeah. I mean, I know of her. Yeah.
Okay. Let me, just for that, I'm hitting.
It's a good video. It's a good video.
Oh, you've seen this? Okay.
I was born and raised in a small town in Southern Oregon, and I was a good kid in school. I grew up in a normal middle-class family. I got great grades. I was really active in sports, and I even graduated a year early. I was accepted into Oregon State University, and I had my dorm room already assigned, and I was really excited to move up to Corvallis. But that summer, I got pregnant by my boyfriend, and I had to make a real tough decision whether I was going to keep my baby and unenroll from university or get an abortion and keep it all a secret. And that was a really tough summer for me. After I had the baby, I had some friends that had gone up to U of O to go to college, and they had an extra room in one of their apartments. It was at that time that I met a boy or a guy who pretended to take interest in me. I really thought he liked me, and we got along really well. He was really funny and charming, and he had a nice car, and he always picked up the tab. He had nice clothes. And he told me he was a record producer, that he had a band up in Portland, and that's why he frequently went out of town. There's a saying that says, when you take a child by the hand, you take the mother by the heart. And I really think that's what happened for me, because I had this new little girl and this man who showed this desperate attention towards her, like he wanted to really help make this family that I really wanted for my daughter. And he invited me to move in with him after about 6 months of dating. And I was really excited. And I brought him down to Southern Oregon to meet my family, and everything seemed fine until we arrived in Las Vegas. He said we were moving there because that was the entertainment capital of the world, and being a record producer and having a band, that's where they were going to get the most gigs and the most jobs, and that's where his job was leading him. So I desperately wanted to go with him, to be with him, and to start this family that he promised me. He pulled up to an escort service, and he said, "This is how it works in Vegas. I've spent a lot of money to get you here. I put first and last on an apartment. I filled your fridge up with food, and you're going to need to earn that money back." And I felt trapped. I felt like, how am I going to get out of this? And you didn't know if you were going to live or die. You didn't know what he was going to do or what he was capable of. And so it was really scary. I can remember just running through the casino thinking, like, these people don't even have a clue what's going on. They're just, cha-ching, cha-ching, Las Vegas, yay! And they're doing all this stuff, and I'm running for my life. I'm running from a man that has forced me into doing things that I didn't want to do. when you have a trafficker that's waiting at home with your child and says, if you don't bring home $1,500, you're going to find your daughter out on the corner. I think I was probably more frightened to go home than I was to be in the room. Because if you got robbed, it was your fault for being stupid. If you got raped, it was your fault for not watching your back. Anything that happened to you was typically your fault, and you incurred more punishment for allowing those things to happen to you. So it made you always walk in fear of your trafficker.
Yeah, it's a
Oh my
good
goodness.
video. Mm-hmm.
You could just, oh my goodness. Oh, Stephanie.
And I think that one shows, this was someone she loved and trusted. This was her boyfriend. This was someone she introduced to her parents. And, it's a different mindset than, or it's a different reality than we think it is.
So being on the front side, the front end with your work, with the Set Me Free project, bringing awareness to kids and individuals, not just kids, but individuals prior to becoming a victim instead of after it's happened. How challenging that must be. Because kids always think, that's not me. I know everything. She's not talking about me. I'm not that stupid. All the different, what are you hearing? What's the pulse, if you will, of the young people today, as far as how they feel about this possibly happening to them or someone they know?
Well, it's a great question because, and here's what I will say. We used to always go in person and we were the presenters. We are now working to get our curriculum into the hands of social workers and counselors because we have seen such a change with COVID, with the developmental age of students, and it's just changed the dynamic. But I was actually in a school yesterday and I did several different grades, small classrooms. And I think the key with youth, and this is what so many people who are working with in this industry don't fully understand, is it cannot be a fear-based conversation. And that's when you lose people or don't. I talked to somebody who said, but fear-based sensationalism, that's what gets them to listen. Well, maybe, but you don't retain that. And that's not what it looks like. So you've got to be honest. And so one of the things we do with youth is we're very interactive. We have a lot of engagement, a lot of activities, but we bring a lot of fun and humor despite the topic. And so we always start with that. This is a safe place. Number one, I'm a mandatory reporter. Number two, let's have fun despite our topic.
You're a mandatory reporter.
Yeah.
Tell everybody what that actually means.
So, in other words, anything that they tell me that is confidential, or they tell me is confidential, except if they tell me that they're in imminent danger, they want to hurt themselves, or they want to hurt others, then I do have to report that.
So what makes a person a mandatory reporter? How does that?
Well, it depends on your state. Actually, in Nebraska, where I live, everyone is considered a mandatory reporter. It's automatic. In Iowa, for example, I think also in Illinois, it's, a lot of time people who work with children, so teachers, doctors, people who are psychologists, people who are working with individuals who might see something that is reportable.
Do you think, I'm sorry,
you're good.
Questions flying through this little mind of mine.
I like it.
Are people in general afraid to get involved? Yes. People, that because there was something in the news just a couple of weeks ago about how the citizen, what do you call it? That was being a good citizen.
Oh, Good Samaritan.
Thing. Yeah. Lost their life because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so people.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but like neighbors and things in apartment buildings that hear things. And I was talking to a kid just last week at the grocery store, and he was telling me he had it out with his neighbors, and when they went there to talk with the manager who knocked on, they had a room full of guns. You could see them from the door hanging on the walls. And so he said, I'm just gonna move because he plays piano and he stays under the noise ordinance or whatever, but they kept blocking his cars so he couldn't get out, all this harassment. And then he said, after I saw those guns, the truth really didn't matter anymore to me because I don't want to die over something.
Good thinking. I mean, truly, I think that, so I'll answer that in a couple of different ways.
Sure.
First of all, yes, I think we're in a really scary society right now. And I think that getting involved should look differently than sometimes people think. I had a neighbor who got super mad because we built a fence. It was our first day in the neighborhood, and she yelled at us because we built a fence because we had dogs. But what we decided to do in order to stop the problem is ignore it. Like, we weren't going to be combative back. She would do things she called the city on us. She ran her lawnmower like all day long. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. And we were just like, okay. And it went away. She stopped. But I think once people become combative back, that's when the issues start. And if you're talking about something like trafficking, or you see domestic violence, or get involved by calling the police or there's a trafficking number hotline.
I wrote that down for a tip line.
Yeah, exactly. It's 888-373-7888. Or you can look at it like 888-3737-888.
Yeah.
So that is the trafficking hotline. So always call, always report. You might not be right. That's okay. If you see something that looks unusual, there's something going on. But what you do not ever want to do is intervene. That's dangerous.
Don't get involved. Like,
don't intervene. Don't go and try and get in the middle of it. That is unsafe. But call, make a report, tell somebody.
Have you personally? Oh Lord, look at me. I'm trying to do this number. In your dealings with people in the preventative lane, have you ever, they go, wait a minute, that sounds like what's happening to me right now?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that happens all the time.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. So, and here's the reality. The majority of trafficked individuals don't identify as trafficked. They don't identify as victims. And it's part of that grooming process, and, oh, this is my choice. I mean, you could walk up to an individual who's being trafficked and say, are you being sex trafficked? And their response would be no, not necessarily because they don't want to tell you, but because they don't see it that way. Yeah. And so we get disclosures quite a bit from kids and adults, but I can't tell you how many times I've had people say, oh my gosh, that's what happened to me. Or, oh my gosh, that's what's happening to my friend right now. And it's just this revelation because, again, it doesn't look like we think it should look.
Wow.
Yep.
It's maybe somebody needs to write a television show. You know what I mean? One of those weekly shows where that people can't take their eyes off so they can teach through there or something, because it's like, so what
I know somebody with a television station. So
you do?
You.
I wish there were someone who would want to have a television show. You started it. I'll finish it.
I know. That's a good idea, actually.
On teaching how to look for the signs and like, what are the numbers right now? I mean, we'll hear about, not to take anything from it because it is an issue, but we'll hear about a truck full of, people that got caught trying to get over the border, this, that. You hear that stuff all the time. but you rarely hear at a grassroots level in the news, this and the other about trafficking. It's got to be some big prominent thing in the, and I don't understand that because I know it's happening. Our communities that when it does happen and it is caught and exposed, is it one of those things? Because I know they do it in this town for certain things, suicides in schools and stuff. Never, because I get called to speak at some of these schools, but it was never in the press.
Right.
So our communities hush hush. Is there a stigma?
Yeah, for sure there is. Now, let's say you got a little white girl, blonde hair, who goes missing, for example. That's going to be all over the news, right?
Yes.
But let's say you have a teenager who has been trouble during his or her life. Maybe they're a person of color, and then they go running, for example. So they're runaways or missing from care for a week, then they come home, then they're gone for 2 weeks, and then what we say about those kids is, they're just runaways. That's our response. They're just troubled. And so I think that's what happens so often. And that's why prevention, we always say we want to stop human trafficking before it starts, because prevention has to be community wide. It really does. We have to not only get our curriculum in the schools to talk to kiddos, but then we need to educate the educators. We need to educate parents, but every business, every person in every community needs to know what this looks like, so that if they do see it, they can actually do something to stop it.
Exactly. And I had an idea once, and I wondered why. I remember when I was a kid, some of you guys might remember, you might even 270. There used to be a thing in neighborhoods called Neighborhood Watch.
Oh, yeah.
And they would put the thing in the window so you'd know if you were in trouble, you could come here.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it just be a sticker
That's what I would love to do with businesses. That is what I would love to do. Train. And actually, we're working on that with hotel motels. We just acquired long story. But what I would like to do with businesses everywhere is train the business, but not just once. It can't be one and done. It's got to be consistent. And that can be done through onboarding with videos, but it can also be in person or webinars. And then provide a sticker that says, "Trafficking stops with me," or something. And that, not only would that be a sign for the individual that, okay, this person's been trained, but also to the trafficker that's like, okay, this community is trained. I am not going to traffic here.
Let's
Moving on. And that's what needs to happen. And I would love to do that nationwide, frankly, is what I would like to see.
Absolutely.
Because here's the deal too. There are things like, oh, this is a safe house, or, in businesses. But there was a woman who was being trafficked, went to a safe house, or whatever they're called in businesses, reported it, or said, I need help, I'm being trafficked. The person behind the counter did not know what she was saying and what to do, and ignored her. She actually came back, which never happens. Pretty much, if you have reported something and no one listens to you, you're probably done, right?
Yeah.
And she actually came back, reported again, and the person behind the counter had no idea what to do, ignored her, didn't. And so it's you can have a sticker on your business, but if you're not consistently trained, it does no good. And you've got to have your staff to know, this is our protocol, this is what we do, and that's what needs to happen.
It feels like it should be just as important as diversity and inclusion training.
Yes, absolutely. Which there's not enough of that either. But
I know, you work in that area too.
So yes, we need to
I
do
heard
that all.
somebody say that that 9 out of, I don't know that I don't want to go there, but that most neighborhoods, let's put it that way, have an offender in their neighborhood. They just haven't committed the crime yet. When it comes to this sort of thing, that they're there, they just haven't done it yet. So how do we move forward, Stephanie? And I know it's a tough question and all, but what can each of us do that will mean something as far as this stopping? What can we do to be better informed on our own, not wait for someone to knock on the door and say, want to sign this petition?
Thank you. Yes. So there's so much we can do. And this is a great question. And I do have the answers. Number one, get educated. That is critical. Learn what it is, what it's not. Don't perpetuate the myths of trafficking, which continues to happen. But that's one of the things we do. We love to have webinars, or, you can be anywhere and we will educate you. We love that consistent education. The other thing, and hey, donate to good, solid counter-trafficking organizations. That really does help. But the other thing you can do that I think is really important, and this is a little controversial sometimes, but if we were to stop the demand, we would be able to stop this problem. If the demand isn't there, if we're not buying sex, hey, nobody would be selling sex. But part of that is there is a strong link between pornography and trafficking, huge link. And we see when the pornography trends change, the trafficking trends change. And so we really have to be very mindful of what we're consuming, and what we're doing with those things. And so I think those are a lot of just the little things we can do to make a difference and make a change. But education is huge.
So much work to be done still.
Yes.
But this is how it begins. Every day, every moment with a conversation. So, on your screens right now, you'll see you can reach Stephanie at Stephanie Olson Speaking on Facebook or at her website, stephanieolson.com. Because if you belong to, if you're in the teaching field or, any type of education, your church, your community, if you are one of those chaperones that takes young people on trips, senior class trips and things like that, where a lot of this takes place, wherever you are, whatever you do, I bet you, if you look hard enough, there's a way that you can become better informed and make the people around you better informed about this epidemic, because it is an epidemic with trafficking. Stephanie Olson, thank you so much.
Thank
you guys, happy birthday.
Yay!
Go and enjoy breakfast with your wonderful kids. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your birthday, your special day, to come and remind us that we have an obligation, we have a duty to be a part, even from afar, of the solution. All of us can do something. So check it out, inform yourself, get educated, and together we can make a difference. Stephanie, I want to thank you again.
It's an honor.
You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Listen, you guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Guess what? 2 days in a row, there's a Dr. Stephanie on the show. Tomorrow it is Dr. Stephanie Wilson. She'll be here, and we're going to have another great time, and we're going to round out the week together like we always do. I'll meet you out front tomorrow morning, God willing, at 8 a.m. Central. So together, we can create another divine moment in time through purpose. Get out there and be the best you. I believe in you, and I love you, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. So I'll see you. Bye, everybody.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Boy, I'm standing right here holding up a sign.